Setsu was just an ordinary loser until he got Isekai'd a second time to a world he saved before. However, when he realizes this world is waging war again, he decides to hide his identity and go on a solo mission just to Ora farm and clap everyone. The story begins when Setsu is in class chilling with his bestie named Yui. All of a sudden, a magic circle appears on the floor. But while everyone panics, Setsu smiles because he knows they're getting yeeted to another world. Soon after, the students find themselves in an open field and see dark knights charging at them. As they run like chickens, Yui tries to protect Setsu from getting pounded by a dark knight, but Setsu flicks his finger and sends the knight flying. He then holds Yui to make a run for it, and realizes he's been Isekai'd into a war between humans and demons, but is confused because he ended the war 5 years ago. Soon, Elka, a blue-haired female knight, arrives with reinforcements and tells the students to run while she holds off the demons. After Elka's side secures victory, Setsu and the others are brought before the human king. The king reveals that in the previous war, a summoned hero brought temporary peace. So this time he has summoned a bunch of them in hopes that it'll increase their odds of ending this war. With no other choice, the students accept their fate and are trained on how to use magic, but Setsu slacks off. Elka notices and decides to punish him for it, but he dodges and smacks her fruitcakes. This makes him realize that he's the same hero who disappeared 5 years ago, and she immediately gets on her knees to simp for him. A little later, her colleague Glenn arrives and learns that Setsu is back, so he sprints to tell his friend Thea the news, but he finds she already knew because she sensed Setsu's magic. With that, Setsu catches up with his old team and asks about the hero named Toma, mentioning that the cursed magic powering the Dark Knights was something only Toma could do. The others claim they have no idea where he is, but they suspect that Setsu's return might mean that Toma is alive and kicking. Later on, Glenn attends a council meeting with the king and tries to talk him out of declaring war on the demons. After the meeting, Glenn tells Setsu that he was only able to delay the war by convincing the king that the summoned heroes need more time to train. Realizing he doesn't have much time, Setsu decides to go on a mission to stop the war, but declines his friend's request to join him because if Toma is truly behind the war, he'll need people to stay back and defend the kingdom. The following morning, Setsu and his buddies sneak into the castle to steal something important. While they're at it, Elka knocks out 2 knights and allows them access to a room where Setsu finds his big long weapon. However, the guards see the knocked out knights and place the castle on lockdown to find the culprits. As a result, Glenn and Thea offer to stay back and buy Setsu some time, allowing him to escape with Elka. Just when he's about to leave, Yui arrives and asks what he's up to, so Setsu tells her it's his second time being summoned to this world, and he wants to end the war. Hearing this, Yui sobs and asks to tag along, but Setsu refuses, not wanting to put her in danger. As Yui figures she can't change his mind, she shows off a bit of her magic and promises to get stronger so she can protect him. About 5 years ago, Setsu met a skilled craftsman and tried to buy a special jewelry piece, but the old man refused to sell it to him. However, when he offered a sack full of gold coins, Grandpa changed his mind. As Setsu left, Grandpa's granddaughter, Ruri, asked why he changed his mind, because he initially said that pride was the most important thing for a craftsman, so Grandpa fumbled an excuse that money is the exception. A few months later, Grandpa passed away, so Ruri inherited his store and decided to complete the last order he had before his passing. Currently, she rides alone in the woods, heading to deliver a package to a client. On the way, her wagon is attacked by a wild beast, but as she crashes to the floor, she pays more attention to securing a certain jewelry piece and completely forgets about the wild beast. When she retrieves the jewelry, she comes face to face with the monster and starts begging for her life, but before she can get torn to shreds, Setsu shows up and one-shots the beast. At first, Ruri thinks Setsu is going to come after her money, but Setsu insists that he's just passing by, and he only wants to make sure she's safe. As he helps her up, she sees a reflection of the old Setsu in him, but brushes it off because this Setsu isn't Chad enough to be a hero. As Setsu walks off to resume his journey, Ruri begs him to be her guard, offering to pay him once she completes her delivery. At first, Setsu hesitates to accept the offer, but when he thinks about it, he agrees to take her to the nearest port for free. The next morning, when they arrive at the port city, Ruri starts looking for a boat that'll take her to the demon continent, but doesn't find any since there's a war ongoing. While she sulks and wonders what she'll do next, some knights call her for inspection and ask to see her documents. Seeing that she's all good, the knights try to find something to use against her, so they insist on seeing what's in her bag. Ruri refuses because she doesn't want them to see the jewelry, but the knights insist and try using force on her. Before that can happen, Setsu shows up and tells them to scram because they don't have the permit to search traders' items. Hearing this, the knights get ticked off because a mere civilian built like Jinwo's left sack is teaching them the law, so they decide they'll teach him a lesson. However, since they are out in the open and don't want other citizens to see them, they decide to call it off and walk away. With them gone, Ruri jumps on Setsu and thanks him for saving her life because she was seconds away from wetting herself. A while later, she gets him a snack to appreciate him for all he's done for her, and then asks how he knew the knights weren't meant to search her bags. Setsu replies that only soldiers with badges can question civilians, and he knows this thanks to an old friend of his. He then recalls that Ruri won't make it to the demon continent if she doesn't get a ship, and asks what she plans to do next. Ruri replies that she'll keep asking around town for a ship, and if it doesn't work, she'll buy a ship instead. Setsu notices her long face because a ship is mad expensive, so he offers to help her since he's going to the demon continent too. However, he insists they pass the night at an inn first, and that Ruri wouldn't need to pay him a dime. A little later, they secure an inn, where Setsu finally gets a warm shower. Once he's done, Ruri prepares to shower too, but before she leaves, she begs Setsu to hold her bag, and even shows him what's inside. Seeing the jewelry, Setsu recalls it's the same one he got from her grandfather about 5 years ago, though he doesn't say anything about it. A few years ago, Ruri's grandfather was the best jeweler in the kingdom because no one could match his genius. One time, he received a request to repair a jewelry he had devoted his time to making, but since he was running out of time to live, he repaired it and begged Ruri to help deliver it to his client. Ruri cried as she accepted the offer since she knew his time was already up, and she also promised to deliver the package no matter what. In the present, Ruri narrates this tale to Setsu and begs him to take care of her package. As she heads off to shower, Setsu opens the box and confirms that it's an enchanted jewelry he gave to someone special, so he begins to wonder whether the person is okay. Around midnight, both Ruri and Setsu lie fast asleep in weird positions on the bed, but Setsu bolts awake when he realizes the knights from earlier are looking for him. Once the knight barges into his room, Ruri bolts awake and freaks out, so Setsu grabs her like tissue paper and jumps out the window. As he runs for his life, the knights close in on him and try to block every exit corner he can use to escape, but he simply jumps over them. Eventually, he outruns them, but since he's only about 6 inches smart, he realizes a bit too late that he's hit a dead end, and Ruri starts panicking again. It doesn't take long for the knights to close in on him, and they start grinning because Setsu has no place to run. To their shock, Setsu carries Ruri and jumps off the city's wall, heading straight for the ocean. While he's in mid-air, an overpowered monster named Livia appears and catches him. Then he casually begs her to ride him off to the demon continent. On the other hand, the knights struggle to believe their eyes, but as one of them asks how they'll report this, another replies that what just happened is a dream, and that dreams can't be reported. Meanwhile, on the trip to the demon continent, Ruri wonders how Setsu became friends with Livia because she's the goddess of the ocean, but she brushes it off as she realizes she's already at her destination. The next morning, Setsu enjoys himself as he watches Livia fight an overpowered kraken. After Livia wins the fight, Setsu introduces Ruri to her, but she ignores her and slams Setsu for not helping her in the fight. As Setsu claims it's because she can handle herself, Livia gets pissed because she hasn't seen him in 5 years, and the first thing he did was use her as a cheap ride to his destination and as a form of entertainment. As punishment, she tells Setsu to handle the kraken, and the next thing he knows, he finds himself cooking the kraken's meat. When he's done cooking, Ruri tastes his meat and realizes it's delicious, while Livia remarks that she likes hers raw. After that, Livia points Ruri to the demon castle, where her package is going. But Ruri is shocked when Livia tells her that her client is Dizes, the demon lord. Once Livia finishes her meal, she prepares to head back into the ocean because she's done with Setsu, but Setsu begs her to tag along because it's been a while. Hearing this, Livia snaps and reminds him that she kept her promise of maintaining peace in the ocean, only for him to return after 5 years with another chick. As Setsu tries to defend himself, some demon younglings show up and assume he's having a lover's quarrel with Livia, so they try to make him apologize to her. Since Setsu isn't feeling up to it, he tries to bribe the younglings with his fried meat. However, after the younglings have it, they beg him to make more because they like it, and Livia supports them, forcing Setsu to cook the whole kraken. In the next town, the civilians complain about the kraken because it stopped them from fishing and has spoiled business for them, but they're shocked when Setsu casually rolls in the kraken's remains. Since Livia is the one behind the kraken's demise, the whole town throws a party for her, and Setsu is forced to cook for everyone. On top of that, Livia mocks Setsu for being slow, so Setsu decides to up his game by using his combat skills to speed up slicing the kraken's meat. Seeing this, the villagers applaud him and compliment his cooking skills, while Livia sits bored because Setsu is having all the fun. From a distance, a knight from the demon palace sees the town and assumes that humans have set it on fire, so he dashes immediately to defend the place. In the meantime, Ruri gets drunk on Setsu's meat, so she starts fidgeting and begs to have a conversation with Livia. While they talk, Ruri asks Livia how she knows Setsu, so Livia replies that 5 years ago, Setsu tried to cross her waters without permission, and they fought. She claimed that after the fight, Setsu begged for her help with the war, and she agreed and followed him around. However, the truth is that she went on a rampage during the war, and that was when Setsu found her and tamed her with a single punch, though she doesn't narrate this part to Ruri. When Livia reveals that Setsu was the hero who ended the war 5 years ago, Ruri is shocked to her bones because she barely recognizes him. She also notices that Livia is still mad at Setsu for leaving her, so she wonders if Livia is in love with Setsu. Livia immediately debunks this, claiming she'd date a goat if Setsu were the last man on the planet. Meanwhile, deep down, she admits she was waiting for him to come back. Suddenly, Vlad crashes the party, hoping to cut down the so-called humans he claimed he saw, but he realizes the whole town was just having a good time. As he comes to his senses, he apologizes to Livia for crashing the party, but he finds it weird that she's in her human form. Just then, Setsu shows up, and Vlad recognizes him because he can sense his magic. After exchanging pleasantries, Setsu figures that something is wrong because it's rare for Vlad to be out of the demon castle. So Vlad says it's because of the looming war and adds that he came seeking Livia's help. But since Setsu is already here, Vlad pleads with him to help save Dezes, who's being forced into a marriage with a man named Terran. Vlad warns that this marriage would make Dezes become Terran's rub-off doll, thanks to an enchanted ring Terran possesses. He also mentions that humans started the war, which shocks Setsu since he'd always heard the humans claim the demons attacked first. Vlad goes on to explain that Terran even appeared on the demon continent, taking advantage of Dezes' hesitation about the war, offering to negotiate peace, but only for his own benefit. Hearing this, Setsu finds this Terran guy suspicious because he's the Elon Musk of this universe, and he's holding both species' economies in the sacks. As he wonders why Dezes would want to become a slave to stop the war, he slams Vlad for being cool with it. However, Vlad argues that he won't stand back and watch because he and his generals will fight to their last breath. Still curious, Setsu wonders why Dezes is sacrificing herself, so Livia tells him it's because Dezes promised her she'd maintain the peace. Hearing this, Setsu realizes he needs to get to the demon castle as fast as possible, before his beloved Dezes is turned into an OnlyFans model. He then dashes to the castle with Livia, but on the way, they both get attacked by wild beasts, so Livia starts fending them off to make sure Setsu doesn't waste his energy. When she's done, she asks Setsu what he plans to do when he reaches the castle, so he tells her he'll crash the wedding and give Dezes and Milkers a quick fondle. Hiding jealousy, Livia asks how he intends to stop the war, so Setsu tells her he believes Terran is behind it. He's convinced the Dark Knights that attacked the humans weren't demons, and he's sure someone set the whole thing up, and that the person who set the whole thing up is the same person offering to sell peace. Though he doesn't know who the main mastermind is, he figures Terran might know something about it. After hearing this, Livia takes out the remaining wild beasts at their position and continues her mission with Setsu. On the way, she smiles because she's recalling the old time she spent with Setsu. Back then, she would only chill at the bottom of the ocean, with no care for what happened at the shore until she met Setsu, who made her realize how beautiful the world was. Sometime in the past, Dezes grew tired of everything because she'd lived a long life and realized that the world was beyond her control. In the previous war against the humans, she led the front lines and protected her people. However, as the battle went on, Setsu finally confronted her and offered a peace treaty. He gave her a special jewelry to mark the human reconciliation with her kind and insisted she wear it because it looked good on her. As time passed, Setsu went missing, and although it bothered her, she promised she would uphold the peace treaty no matter what. A few years later, her kingdom started prospering thanks to the treaty, and her people were grateful to her for everything. Unfortunately, she noticed her jewelry from Setsu had broken, so she gave it to Vlad, who offered to help send it out for repairs. A few weeks later, she received a report that the humans had attacked her people, and it made Vlad wonder if the peace treaty was a joke. Dezes told him not to jump to conclusions and insisted on sending some scouts to the human kingdom to find out what was going on. A few weeks passed, and Dezes still didn't get any intel from the scouts she sent out, which made her worry about the continent. While she was lost in thought, she was informed that Terran wanted to see her, so she agreed to meet with him. During the meeting, Terran mentioned that he wanted to use his position as the richest man to help end the war with the humans, but in return, he wanted Dezes' hand in marriage so he could clap her every night. When Dezes saw his contract, she realized she was going to be his slave, and it became clear when she saw the enchanted necklace she'd used to swear her vow. Despite Vlad's warnings, Dezes told Terran she'd think about his offer, but Terran teased that she was running out of time. A few days later, Dezes accepted his offer, so Vlad met her, wondering if she had lost her mind. He promised to fight to his last breath if it came down to it, but Dezes told him to stand down because she didn't want the bloodshed. She then asked him if he thought she was unfit to be the demon lord, but Vlad ignored her and walked away. In the meantime, Terran left the demon castle, pleased that he was able to bag the hottest demon chick in all of Annie and Dare recaps. While he left the demon capital, he spoke to an unidentified hooded guy and questioned if it was high time they withdrew the Dark Knights attacking the humans, but the hooded guy refused because of his master. Presently, it's the day of the wedding, and lots of distinguished guests gather at a church to witness the ceremony. In the crowd, some demons looked pissed because they were against the marriage, but they couldn't do anything because the hooded guy and his sorcerers were there. Soon, Dezes marches in, wearing a white wedding dress, and some unmentionables to fit Terran's degenerate taste. As the crowd cheers loudly, she walks down the aisle and meets Terran at the altar, who is seething to marry her already. As the priest begins the ritual, Terran reveals the enchanted necklace, announcing that he'll become the new demon lord and bring peace to the world. After the crowd cheers for him, he tells Dezes to pledge her eternal love to him, but that's when Dezes starts getting flashbacks about her time with Setsu. Deep down, she tears up, wishing she could see Setsu again. But speaking of the devil, Setsu arrives like a G. While everyone runs out, thinking the place is under attack, Setsu tells Dezes he traveled all the way to save her, and it makes Terran freak out. Scared and frustrated, Terran orders his sorcerers to attack Setsu, but Livia appears and eliminates them one by one. Dezes is shocked to see her because it's been a long time, but rather than say hi, Livia roasts her for wearing a white wedding dress. Just then, the hooded guy attacks Livia with his magic, but although Livia moves swiftly to dodge, she gets restrained by his spell. Seeing that she's now vulnerable, the hooded guy decides to finish her off, but Setsu arrives at the nick of time and saves her. He then speeds behind Hoodie and lands a surprise attack on him that sends him flying away. As Hoodie recovers, he quickly realizes he's up against the great hero Setsu, so he decides to take the battle seriously because he wants to report Setsu's existence to his master. With that said, Hoodie attempts a surprise attack on Setsu, but Setsu counters and beats him to a pulp. After having enough of Setsu's fists, Hoodie realizes he'll lose his head if he keeps fighting, so he runs like a chicken to report his findings to his master. With Hoodie gone, Dezes jumps and hugs Setsu, telling him she's missed his face and sausage all these years. She then asks where he's been all these years, but Setsu tells her it's a long story and that he's glad she's safe. Livia, who's seething with jealousy, interrupts their lovey-dovey session, showing that the knocked-out sorcerers are dead humans made from curses. When Setsu takes a closer look, he gets convinced that Toma is behind everything and destroys the enchanted necklace that was meant for Dezes. Seeing this, Dezes offers to help Setsu in his quest because she wants to make Terran pay for making her wear a revealing wedding dress. As Setsu agrees, he says he plans to see Regulus, the king of beastmen, and Dezes remarks that he's taking things too fast. When Setsu replies that it's because he has a peace treaty to keep, Livia crashes out because it means she'll be used as a cheap ride across the ocean again. A little later, Ruri arrives with Vlad and is excited that things went well with Dezes. She then gives Setsu the jewelry, telling him that he's the perfect person to hand it to Dezes, so Setsu takes it and puts it on Dezes' neck, making her happy. In the past, when Setsu was still on Earth, his mother introduced him to Yui and wanted them to become friends, but Setsu wasn't feeling it. Yui already realized he was the king of guys who didn't like drama, but she kept pushing to be close to him, especially because they were neighbors. As time went on, Setsu opened up and started getting friendly with her, and that was how she realized he was a kind person. One day, Yui told Setsu that she would take summer lessons so she could up her grades and attend the same school as him. However, Setsu bluntly told her not to sweat it, insisting that she aimed to get into an easier school. His reply broke Yui's heart, and although she made it obvious, Setsu couldn't tell why she was pissed. Since then, Yui paid more attention in class and spent extra hours studying to improve her grades. Unfortunately, when she was done writing an exam, she realized she wasn't good enough, and her hopes of being with Setsu were shattered. That evening, as she walked home in tears, some of her colleagues noticed her mood and told her to give up on school and hang out with them instead. But Setsu arrived and told them to scram. He then told Yui that those guys weren't wrong about her giving up, but Yui still insisted she wanted to attend the same school as Setsu. Seeing her determination, Setsu offered to tutor her, but warned that he'd be hard on her no matter how much she cries and complains. Hearing this, Yui was excited and looked forward to studying with Setsu, whom she was madly in love with. Presently, Elka trains the summoned heroes on how to use magic, but when it reaches Yui's turn, she obliterates her target. Elka commends her for improving so much in a short time and ends the training session. However, as she walks away with Glenn, Yui meets them and asks if they were Setsu's companions. As Glenn confirms this, Elka mentions that she has utmost respect for Setsu and wishes she could stand by him forever. She then asks Yui what she wants, and the girl demands special training, all because she wants to be with Setsu too. Although Elka is shocked by her request, she agrees to train her and decides to test her fighting skills on the castle walls. As their sparring contest begins, Elka assumes an attack stance and charges at Yui with brute force, so Yui uses everything she's got to block. Elka follows up with multiple sword slashes, and when she notices Yui has gotten the hang of blocking, she lands aerial icy strikes on her. Impressively, Yui counters her attacks with fire magic, but struggles to hold her own when Elka's raw strength is up against hers. As Elka notices this, she ends the match and remarks that Yui is stronger than she realizes, but she lacks something important to stand by Setsu's side. Out of curiosity, Yui asks what she lacks, so Elka leads her to a sewer that is infested by monsters and tells her she'll have to fight a monster. A chill runs down Yui's spine the moment she sees a huge lizard coming out of the sewers, and it gets worse when she realizes she'll have to fight it. On the other hand, Elka tells her to stop acting like a chicken and fight the lizard, so she attacks it with a fireball. As the lizard yells in pain, Yui assumes she's secured the win, but pays the price for rejoicing too early as the lizard scratches her arm. Scared for her life, she unleashes a fire attack that sends the lizard backward, but it's not enough to eliminate it. Elka bluntly tells Yui to finish the lizard off, insisting that she has to take a life to survive the war and protect those she cares about. Since Yui doesn't have the guts to do it, Elka points out that it's what she lacks and decides to show her how it's done. After Elka unalives the lizard, she walks away, while Yui sulks, wondering how she'll stomach taking a life. Later that night, Yui stays up thinking about what Elka said, but she snaps out of it when Thea walks in and heals her wounds. Yui thanks Thea for the help, while Thea calls Elka crazy for sending Yui up against a monster. When Yui admits she asked for it, Thea tells her that Elka was only being hard on her because she sees her as an equal. But the issue is that she can't train drive into her. Out of curiosity, Thea asks Yui why she wants to be with Setsu so badly, reminding her that being around him will put her in lots of danger. Yui replies that it's because Setsu has helped her out her whole life, and she wants to help him in return. Thea smiles after hearing this, and wishes Yui luck in getting what she wants. As she exits the room, she tells Elka that Yui will be alright, but Elka is more worried about what will happen to Yui if she fights alongside Setsu in the war. Although Thea admits she's worried about this, she tells Elka that it's left for Yui to pick her motive, and no one else, including Setsu, can decide that for her. The following day, Yui meets Glenn and opens up about her issues with taking a life, and also asks how he's cool with it. Glenn simply tells her he only fights to make sure the people around him don't suffer, and it's worked for him as a knight. Before leaving, he advises her to pick what she's cool with, adding that it's what Setsu would want. Immediately, Yui starts thinking hard, and it doesn't take long for her to find the answer. That afternoon, while she's training, she fires a fireball at her target and obliterates it, leaving Elka shocked. So that evening, she follows Elka to the sewers, hoping to face another monster and complete her training. As a lizard arrives to attack her, Yui focuses most of her magic into her staff, and then unleashes a deadly fireball that leaves the monster screaming. As the fire goes out, Elka compliments Yui for eliminating the lizard, but Yui tells her the lizard is still alive and she only used just enough magic to render it immobile. She still insists on not taking a life, and promises to never lose to an opponent because of it. Hearing this, Elka gets surprised and realizes she thinks the same way as Setsu, but she warns that her notion will require lots of power to pull off. To this, Yui replies that she'll keep up and become stronger so she can keep her promise of protecting Setsu and everyone else. The following day, Glenn announces to the summoned heroes that they'll be marching to the demon continent the following day, insisting they prepare themselves for war. While other students complain about being undertrained, Yui is the only exception, and she looks forward to joining Setsu in battle. In the meantime, Setsu is currently on a trip to the Beastman continent, and he slams Livia for being too comfortable. As he reminds her that she promised to tag along with him no matter what, she asks what his deal is because she's not done anything wrong. When she recalls that he'll be riding on her like a boat when they get to the port, she snaps and tells him to pay for her services with his breakfast, and he agrees since he has no choice. However, their wagon stops, and their rider allows two demon chicks to tag along with them. Setsu immediately recognizes one of them, named Alize, because she used to be his student before he was yeeted back to Earth. as Setsu introduces Elise to Livia. Elise brags about being Setsu's top student, claiming that Setsu used to give her private tutor lessons at night. Hearing this, Livia desires the private tutor lessons, but she says nothing since she doesn't want them to know she's a pick-me baddie after Setsu's nuclear sausage. Elise then introduces the girl beside her as her sister, named Amel, though she reveals they aren't related. Out of curiosity, Elise asks Setsu where he's been all these years, and Livia insists he answers because she's also clueless. Left with no choice, Setsu tells them about his fight with Toma, and also how he got yeeted out and back into this world. After that, he begs Elise to join him on the Beastman continent as she did 5 years ago, but Elise surprisingly declines. She says it's because she's caught up in a serious situation, and Amel chips in that it's because of her. Apparently, Elise started taking jobs ever since Setsu vanished, until she accepted a mission to slay a dragon attacking a village. Back then, when she accepted the mission, she was introduced to Amel, who was responsible for hosting her, and they quickly became attached. One night, Amel opened up about her brother, who she claims had been missing since the dragon first appeared in the village. When Elise heard this, she felt sorry for Amel and decided to stay with her and fill the void of losing a sibling. Currently, Elise narrates her story to Setsu, so Setsu interrupts, asking if Amel's brother went missing because he was eaten by the dragon, but Elise claims that's not the case. Apparently, every time there was a dragon attack in the village, the villagers usually went missing. She found this weird because normally when a dragon attacks, they should leave behind some evidence of a battle, but in her case, the villagers disappeared with no trace. Back then, Elise thought the only thing she had to do was defeat the dragon, so she set up a trap to lure the dragon to the village so she could finish it off. While she was doing that, Amel was worried about her, but she convinced her to go back inside because the battle would be dangerous. Mere seconds after Amel left, the dragon showed up as expected, and Elise put up a good fight against it. She attacked the dragon until it bailed and flew away, but she still chased after it to end it. On the way, she lost track of the dragon, so she decided to return to the village, but was horrified to find that everyone except Amel had gone missing. Presently, Elise reveals that she intends to find Amel's brother and the rest of the villagers, but she doesn't know where to start. As she asks Setsu for ideas, he tells her he's as smart as a brick, but he and Livia promise to help in any way they can. Elise thanks him for it, and Amel follows suit, but mistakenly addresses Livia as Setsu's wife, causing the hot blue fish to choke. As time goes on, Livia thinks about Amel's case and mentions that it can only be explained by a zombie attack. She claims that someone in the village might have been a necromancer, and that the dragon was a zombie too. However, after she's done spitting this nonsense, Setsu reverts her to factory settings, but rather than shut up, she mentions that sirens might have caused the villagers' disappearance. Hearing this, Amel mentions that sea monsters are easy to identify because they have a unique smell, but since she figures Livia is a sea monster, she insists she doesn't stink. After that, Setsu starts his madness, claiming that space monsters might have caused the villagers' disappearance, so Livia smacks him in the head to make him think straight. At some point, their rider stops the wagon because of the rain, and it annoys Setsu because his trip will be delayed. Thinking back, he wonders why the dragon kept attacking the village repeatedly, so Livia mentions that it might have been drawn to the people's magic. She explains that magic power can attract monsters, and claims that if powerful magic is used inside the village, then it's normal for the dragon to get attracted to it. Hearing this, Setsu then asks what would explain the villagers' disappearance, and Livia becomes clueless. On second thought, Setsu figures that only teleportation magic can explain the villagers' disappearance because the person who cast it might be the person who attracted the dragon, and the only person who fits that is Amel. Hearing this, Amel acts defensively and tries to fumble an excuse to prove her innocence. However, Setsu reminds her that she could tell Livia was a sea monster, and Livia isn't the kind that can be detected easily. As he questions how Amel knew Livia was a sea monster, Amel smiles and triggers a magic spell that explodes the wagon. Thankfully, Setsu makes sure the girls survive the crash, but Amel materializes into a dragon and attacks them. While it goes down, Elise runs and hides because she's scared to fight. But when Setsu yells that she should get herself together, she summons the courage to go after Amel. Livia and Setsu join forces with her, and they use their combined abilities to land an attack on Amel that sets her on the defensive. After a fatal strike from Setsu, Elise takes advantage of an opening and stabs Amel in the face, forcing her to disintegrate into green snow. That evening, while Setsu rides Livia back to his next destination, Livia asks if it was okay for them to leave Elise on her own. So Setsu says that Elise will be fine. Meanwhile, when Elise returns to the village, Amel shows up in human form, and it shocks Isekai'd because she thought Amel was dead. Amel admits that she's turned the whole village into soldiers for war, revealing that she's a monster master who works for Toma. The next morning, on the beast folk continent, a cute beast chick named Shiro is gifted by almost every trader in a small town because she helped deal with monsters that were interfering with their business. On her way home, she struggles to walk because she's been gifted with plenty, and when she finally gets home, her sick sister, Mineko, compliments her for getting all these gifts. However, as Shiro prepares to head out, Mineko's condition worsens, so Shiro rushes and gives her some medication to make her feel better. The following day, Setsu arrives in this town with Livia and tries to get a boat to the continent's capital, but the boat guy drops an F-bomb on him and says he should scram. As a result, Setsu shoots Livia the side eye, hinting at riding on her back again. But when he notices a few extra veins popping on her head, he pats her and apologizes for making her swim for 2 days straight. Later that afternoon, Shiro stops by an inn and gets medication from a chick named Kuro in exchange for completing a recent job. As Kuro compliments Shiro for taking care of her sick sister, she gives her another job, but this time it involves assassinating someone. Kuro promises that if she completes the job, she'll get paid lots of money, and she'll never have to worry about paying for her sick sister's medicine, so Shiro accepts. Coincidentally, Setsu walks in with Livia to get a room, but after seeing Setsu's face, Shiro realizes he's her target. That evening, after Shiro makes dinner for Mineko, she looks sad because she'll have to take a life, but when Mineko asks what's up with her, she doesn't say anything. So at night, while Setsu and Livia snore their lives out, Kuro leaves the inn open for Shiro to sneak in and finish the job. Before entering, Shiro begs to address Kuro as her sister because Kuro has done a lot for her and her sister. She also begs to spend some time away with Kuro when the job is done, so Kuro pats her on the head, telling her she's cool with whatever she wants. After that, Shiro sneaks into Setsu's room and tries to take him out with her claws, but she realizes a bit too late that Setsu had already cast illusion magic to fool her. Suddenly, Setsu appears behind her and lands a nasty kick that sends her flying out of the window. Surprisingly, Shiro lands on her feet, so Setsu jumps out to face her. Before he attacks, he asks if she's working for Toma, but Shiro says no, insisting that she only wants him dead. With that, she activates a partial beast transformation and charges at Setsu to fight, but after Setsu blocks her initial attack, he schools her and slaps her back to her human form. The impact of the smacking causes her to time out, but before leaving, Setsu notices she has cursed magic around her and figures that someone is behind it. Later that night, Shiro wakes up and tries to attack Setsu when she sees him in her house, but Mineko tells her to stop, explaining that Setsu found her on the streets and brought her home. Hearing this, Shiro realizes Setsu didn't spill the beans about her being after his life, so she thanks him for it. Observing the house, Setsu realizes that Shiro completes dangerous jobs to afford her sister's medication, but he breaks it to them that Mineko isn't sick. Shocked, Mineko wonders what he's talking about, so he uses light magic to reveal that her necklace is full of cursed magic. Shiro is shocked to see this, while Livia mentions that the person behind the curse might be Toma himself. Setsu brushes that off because he wants to focus on healing Mineko, so Shiro starts begging him to save her sister. Seeing that she's about to cry, Setsu pats her head and promises to heal Mineko, then turns to Mineko and tells her to bear the pain. Immediately, he summons his legendary weapon and orders it to feed on Mineko's cursed magic. However, while he's at it, Kuro reveals herself and aims a dagger at Setsu to take him out. Instinctively, Shiro acts like a meat shield and takes the shot, so Kuro starts mocking her for failing her mission and siding with her target. Since Setsu can't stop Mineko's healing process, Livia decides to fight Kuro in his stead, but he warns her to be careful since Kuro is hot and dangerous. Livia smirks and says that she's the goddess of the ocean and that Kuro has nothing on her. To prove this, she remains calm when Kuro makes multiple copies of herself and summons water that impales all of Kuro's clones at once. Shocked, Kuro wonders how Livia is able to summon water when she's not in the sea, so Livia boasts that she's the sea itself. She then lands a nasty water attack on Kuro, threatening to unalive her if she doesn't reveal Toma's intentions. When Kuro laughs, claiming she isn't scared of death, Shiro arrives and asks why she's doing this, so Kuro yells at the girl for failing her mission. She then admits that Toma intends to become a god and destroy every species that exists, and it makes Livia wonder how a mere human can attain such feats. Before she can beat answers out of Kuro, the chick activates a magic crystal that teleports her out. Right then, Mineko wakes up and hugs Shiro because she's healed now, while Setsu laughs at Toma's quest to become a god. He figures he'll have to turn Toma into his punching bag to stop him from destroying the world and decides to resume his journey to the Beast Folk capital. On a boat out of town, Setsu sees Maneko and Shiro on the way, and they both ask to tag along with him because they want to repay him for helping them. Sometime in the past, Setsu was training Rowa, the Beast King's daughter, on how to fight, but she didn't like him and was only going to respect him as her master if he defeated her in a sparring match. To her shock, Setsu accepted her challenge, and she suddenly started having shaky legs because she realized she didn't stand a chance against Setsu. Currently, at the Beast Royal Capital, high nobles sit in a council meeting with the king, arguing about how they want to join the war and overpower both demons and humans. Although some of them do not fancy the idea, the king grows tired of their yelling but smiles as he signals to Rowa that someone special has arrived. So Rowa bolts immediately because she can already tell who the person is. Meanwhile, Setsu is outside the royal palace, trying to convince some guards that he knows the Beast King, but since he looks as strong as a slime, they don't believe him. Suddenly, Rowa jumps from a tall building and crashes on the guards, all because she wants to hug Setsu. Watching from behind, Maneko and Shiro are shocked that the Beast King's daughter is flirting with Setsu, but Livia isn't surprised because Setsu is a womanizer. On the other hand, Rowa attacks Setsu, trying to test his strength, but she gets countered and pinned to the floor. As she recovers, she clings to Setsu as if they're married, and it makes Kuro and Maneko wonder if she swallowed a love potion. A little later, Setsu appears before Regulus, and the Beast Dude charges at him excitedly to test his strength. As expected, he gets pinned to the floor, but he proceeds to compliment Setsu's raw strength. Looking around, Setsu notices that all the high nobles are passed out, and he realizes Regulus must have given them a beating to make them shut up. Regulus laughs it off as no big deal, and then announces a feast to celebrate Setsu's surprise visit. Before the preparations begin, he begs Setsu to engage him in a duel, but Setsu declines because he's here to talk about the war. He tells Regulus that Toma is alive and then asks for his military support to end the war. While Regulus thinks about it, Rowa volunteers to join Setsu because it'll be unwise for her father to leave the throne in such dire moments. Suddenly, the Beast King's army commander, Ruga, arrives and tells Regulus not to lend Setsu aid. He introduces himself as Rowa's fiancé, then argues that Setsu can't be trusted because he disappeared for 5 years, plus there's no way to prove that he's on the Beastkind's side. Although Rowa cuts in and says that Setsu can be trusted, Regulus remarks that Ruga has a point, so he suggests a duel, decreeing that the winner's opinion will stand. Ruga accepts immediately and challenges Setsu to a duel, so Regulus makes it interesting by saying that the winner will also get to have his daughter. Left with no choice, Setsu accepts, and the duel is scheduled for the next day around noon. That afternoon, Setsu complains that beast folk are the worst to convince because they only think with their fists and muscles, but Regulus tells him to break a leg, because if he wins the fight, he'll get an army and a kitty. Rowa giggles after hearing this, insisting that she wants Setsu because he's lean and fit, so it means it'll fit. As the other chicks try to understand this, Livia scoffs and realizes she'll have to try harder if she wants to have Setsu to herself. That evening, Rowa meets Ruga and advises him that Setsu is on a whole different level of raw strength, but Ruga argues that he'll fight regardless. Although he admits his chances of winning are the same as the odds of you not gooning for 2 days, he reveals he has a tattoo from a mage that'll convert his strong will into strength. The following day around noon, everyone sits in an arena, raging to see the match between Setsu and Ruga. Just before the match starts, Rowa starts acting cute for Setsu, telling him to knock some sense into Ruga, but this makes Ruga's rage even worse. On Regulus's mark, the contest begins with Ruga charging at Setsu with brute force. Setsu dodges and then blocks a wind attack like it's nothing, so Ruga assumes his beast form to take the fight seriously. However, despite his improved strength, Setsu grabs him by the tail and smacks him on the floor with a power bomb wrestling move. The crowd is left in awe because they never expected Ruga to be defeated so easily, but as Setsu leaves the ring, Ruga recovers and yells that the fight isn't over. Enraged, he triggers the enchanted tattoo on his arm, which then feeds on his hatred for Setsu in exchange for more magic power. As he powers up, Setsu wonders what's up with him, but Livia yells at him to watch out because Ruga is using Toma's cursed magic. Before Setsu knows it, Ruga blasts him with a concentrated magical shot that destroys the arena. As Setsu recovers, Livia throws him his weapon, and he uses it to slice off Ruga's arm when he attacks. Surprisingly, Ruga regenerates the lost limb, so Rowa joins the fight to make sure Setsu doesn't get hurt. Seeing Ruga's cursed magic, Setsu tells Rowa to be careful because she can get infected, but he asks for her help since he'll be vulnerable while summoning his legendary weapon. As he's about to do it, Toma appears, tearing through Ruga's head, and tells Setsu that he's missed him so much. When Rowa interrupts his speech, he gets pissed and tries to take her out, but stops when he sees that Setsu is going to protect her. Deep down, it hurts him that Setsu is willing to point a blade at him to protect someone else, when Setsu had already promised him that they'd be together. Regardless of that, Toma tells Setsu he'll unalive all the species so they can be together, but Setsu promises to cut him down if he tries anything like that. Toma then reveals that the war has started, then teases Setsu that he won't make it in time. After that, he disappears, but as a result, Ruga winds up headless and dead. As things calm down, Regulus feels bad about approving the duel, but Setsu tells him Ruga's death isn't his fault and they need to act fast and stop the war. Hearing this, Regulus offers to give Setsu a ship and make preparations with his army to stop the war. After the meeting, Setsu checks on Rowa to see if she's alright, but she claims she isn't concerned about Ruga's death for now since they have a war to stop. About 10 years ago, Toma and Setsu were summoned for the first time to this world, and they were addressed by the king as heroes destined to save the kingdom. While the king's council rejoiced, Setsu slammed them for ruining his perfect mundane life because he never signed up to be a multiversal scapegoat. These words dropped the king's jaw, so he spent the next hour briefing Setsu on everything that was going on. When they were done, Setsu went out and started training. While Toma found it weird that he was so calm despite what was to come, Setsu said he was calm because he needed to be strong enough to face the war, and Toma envied him because he was mentally weak. He didn't quite vibe with risking his life to save a nation he didn't care about, so Setsu advised him to focus on surviving first. He also asked for Toma's help in stopping the war, insisting that they're brothers and he'll protect Toma no matter what. Hearing this, Toma felt relieved and held Setsu to his promise of working together like brothers. As time passed, Setsu completed his training and prepared to leave the castle to see the world for himself. But Toma was too scared to join him since he wasn't quite strong yet. Before Setsu left, Toma promised to get stronger and help with the war. So Setsu smiled and asked for them to meet again when they both achieved their dreams. That night, while Setsu set out on a journey with Elka, Glenn, and Thea, Toma watched him, clinging to the promise that they'd be together when he returned. As time went on, Toma improved and became a decorated knight in the kingdom, earning His Majesty's favor. Since the title meant that Toma was a step closer to fulfilling his promise to Setsu, he set out on a mission to attack a demon camp to protect the human kingdom. While he was at it, he ordered his men not to spare anyone, so they followed his lead as he slaughtered all the demons he could find. Toma even slaughtered those who begged to be spared, claiming it was the only way for the war to end. When he was done, he noticed something weird about an altar behind him, but he ignored it and tried to walk away. However, an enchanted crystal on the altar called out to him, claiming to see the despair and hatred in his heart. Although Toma ignored the crystal, it promised to grant him his deepest heart's desire, including unmatched power, so Toma yielded and accepted its offer. However, when he got outside, he realized that all of his men were dead, and it worsened his desire to eliminate demons and end the war. Just then, reinforcements arrived, informing Toma to stand down because a truce had been called between all races. He was then ordered to protect the representatives of all species, and before he knew it, Setsu rode in on a wagon with Regulus and wondered what he was doing there. The following day marked the official start of the peace treaty, as the leaders of all species signed a document to end the war. As a result, Setsu was celebrated as a hero, and everyone in the human kingdom ate and drank to his name. During the feast, Setsu noticed Toma's dull mood and asked why the long face, so Toma called him amazing for ending the war. Deep down, Toma felt he didn't measure up to Setsu's accomplishments, but Setsu complimented him for becoming a decorated officer. However, Elka interrupts their talk when she calls out to Setsu to join her at the feast. Before Setsu walked away, Toma called out to him, asking that they go back to Earth since this world was already saved. Although he claimed he had a way to go back, Setsu insisted they enjoy the peace and let loose, and it got Toma pissed. As he sulked, wondering why Setsu wanted to stay in this world, the enchanted crystal made him believe that Setsu had betrayed him. So he drew power from the crystal and declared his intentions of destroying everything that was making Setsu choose this world over him. In anger, he attacked Setsu, so Setsu was forced to fight back. But he held back and tried to convince Toma to snap out of it. Despite that, Toma didn't listen, so Setsu was forced to hit him with everything he had. But the impact ended up reincarnating him back to Earth, while Toma disappeared with no trace. Later that evening, Toma managed to walk to a demon camp, but since he was weak and didn't get what he desired, he sat on the floor expecting death. Surprisingly, the enchanted crystal started glowing, and it showed him a vision of people being subjected to inhuman experiments. All of the subjects mostly yelled as their bodies were pushed to their limits, and even as they screamed for help, the druid doctors didn't spare them. While they suffered, some promised to escape and take revenge, while others assumed that the world wasn't for them. After the crystal was done showing Toma their pain, Toma realized they were people who were broken like him and decided he would save them. So at night, he found the lab and sank it to the ground, making sure the druid doctors didn't make it. After the building dropped, the test subjects were finally free, so Toma took advantage of their situation, asking for their help to destroy this world, and they accepted. Later that day, human ships set sail to the demon continent, hoping to attack the demon troops. As the continent comes into sight, the human general drops a speech encouraging the knights and summoned heroes to fight to their deaths. Meanwhile, Thea senses Toma's magic presence and informs Glenn and Elka. But even with this info, Glenn figures it'll be hard to convince his comrades that the demon army isn't their enemy. He seems worried about Setsu since the dude hasn't shown up yet, but Yui assures them that Setsu is doing all he can to stop this war. Hearing this, Elka and Glenn realize that they need to buy some time, at least until Setsu shows up. Not long after, the human troops arrive at their destination and start charging at the demons' camps. On their way, the demon troops notice them and start shooting magical arrows at them to push them back. However, when a group of human sorcerers returns the favor, the demon camps take damage and it gives the human foot soldiers the morale to attack. Although the human troops suffer some casualties, most of their comrades manage to smash their way into the demon camp and start clapping everyone. On the side, Thea tells the summoned heroes to avoid going after wounded demons and that they should avoid fighting a demon head-on. After that, Elka leads the charge and takes out a bunch of demons, while Thea uses lightning magic to overwhelm a wave of demons. With that, the summoned heroes take the opportunity to attack, but one of them freezes on the spot because she can't stomach attacking someone. As a result, a demon tries to chop off her head, but before that can happen, Yui arrives and saves her. As the war progresses, the demon troops realize that they're cooked if they keep fighting, so they decide to run for their lives. On the way, Yudi notices one of her mates trying to stab a wounded demon, so she yells at him to stop. Pissed, the dude asks what her deal is because war means he'll have to take a life, but Yuvi argues that the demon is weak, and it doesn't make sense to attack someone who can't fight. Suddenly, Amel's voice starts echoing, and she activates multiple magic circles, which she uses to summon dark knights to attack both humans and demons. Before they attack, another magic circle appears and spits out a hypnotized Elise. Seeing her, the human soldiers try to understand whose side she's on, but before they can blink, she cuts them down. Others who try to attack her meet the same fate, and some demons begin thinking that with her, they'll push the human soldiers back. However, life slaps them in the face when the Dark Knights smash them to bits. Glenn immediately charges in and unalives one of the Dark Knights, but when he looks back at it, he realizes the Dark Knights contained humans. Looking closely, Elka and Glenn see Amel's swordswoman and recognize her as Elise, Setsu's old student, but they're shocked because Amel has her hypnotized. When Amel figures they know Elise, she assumes they might also know Setsu, so she brags about turning Elise into her pet doll. She also mentions her plan of turning Glenn's team into dolls, which provokes Elka to attack her. At the last second, Elise swoops in and protects Amel, but she pays no attention to Elka when she tries to win her over. After that, Amel slits her wrist and then starts bending the cursed magic in her blood until it forms 4 overpowered monsters. Immediately, they join forces and attack Glenn's team, but despite their size, Thea and the others manage to overpower them. With the monsters down, Thea mocks Amel for having no moves left, so Amel panics and orders Elise to eliminate Glenn's team. As Elise charges to fight, Glenn counters her and uses his pro-level sword skills to knock her out in one go. Meanwhile, Elka goes after Amel and manages to knock off her weapon and stab her through her magic organ. Although Amel falls weak to the ground, she mutters that she can't die, revealing that she's a modified demon with an extra magic organ. She also admits that she was created as a weapon, revealing that she would have been dead if Toma hadn't saved her from torture. Now, all she wants is to fight for Toma and rid the world of everyone in it. Just then, she activates her magic and uses what's left of it to summon a 3-headed chimera. After that, she becomes one with the beast and goes on a rampage to crush Glenn's team, while she summons a magic blast to roast everyone. Yudi arrives and combines her magic with Thea's to repel the blast. At first, they succeed, but they soon realize that they're cooked if Amel fires again, and it gets worse because Thea is already at her limits. However, a mysterious butterfly speeds past Elka and materializes as Elise behind Amel, stabbing her right through the heart. Shocked, Amel wonders what just happened, but she turns around and sees that Elise has shrugged off her hypnosis. However, Elise weeps and hugs her because, despite everything, she still loved her as a sister. She then recalls when she met Amel for the first time, and how they grew into inseparable sisters. Currently, after Amel passes on, Glenn and Elka tend to Eliza because she's weak and covered in injuries. Thanks to Thea, she gets to live again. But before she can even catch a breather, she senses a strong magical presence, and that's when Hoodie appears. He gets a bit disappointed when he finds out that Amel is dead, so he intensifies his magic storm, preparing to fight Glenn's team. Seeing how powerful he is, Yui volunteers to fight him because Elka, Glenn, and Thea are already at their limits. But Elka tells her it's too dangerous. Despite that, Yui tells her it's what Setsu would do in her position. Then she walks away to face Hoodie. Just as the battle is about to start, Hoodie freezes as he senses a familiar magical presence, and just like that, Setsu lands from the sky, aura farming like he's Timu's Sukuna. In the meantime, Regulus receives word from one of his generals that his army is ready for war, so Regulus orders them to be sent to Setsu's aid. Back at the war front, Yu jumps on Setsu because she's missed him, and she ends up acting lovey-dovey with him. Before she can steal a kiss, Setsu gives her a gentle head pat, telling her to cut it out because he doesn't want his sword growing while he's fighting. Hearing this, Yui smiles and starts acting like a cat, begging Setsu to give her a smacking because it's what she learned from Elka. Though Setsu remarks that he loves the pose, he tells Yui to get it together because he doesn't want her to become another masochist like Elka. Eventually, Yui stops bothering him, so he focuses his attention on Hoodie, who's already raging to fight. As Hoodie takes off his hood, Setsu realizes he seems more powerful than the last time they fought and picks up his weapon to fight. While Hoodie powers up, he notices Setsu is quite fond of protecting those he loves, so he questions why he does. He believes an overpowered warrior like Setsu doesn't have to care about weaklings, but Setsu replies that he'll protect anyone precious to him. Hearing this fuels Hoodie's desire to burn the world to the ground, so Setsu attacks him. Elsewhere, Kuro easily takes out a bunch of humans and demons, but as she is about to move on to the next, Mineko and Shiro show up and oppose her. Deep down, Shiro believes Kuro isn't a bad person, and she feels she can talk her out of destroying the world. When she tries to do it, Kuro laughs, telling her she's fed up with pretending to be her big sister and all she wants to do is unalive her. With that, she shoots both sisters with a blade. As they block, they both realize they'll have to fight their way out of this one and start attacking Kuro to take her down. About 2 minutes in, Kuro grows bored with them because they can't even land a hit. But as she underestimates them, the girls join forces to land coordinated attacks that shove her to the ground. Shiro, thinking the battle is over, tells Kuro to surrender, but Kuro smiles and extends tentacles to capture Mineko. With Mineko out of the way, Kuro activates all of her powers and lands a hit on Shiro that almost knocks her out. When she recovers, Kuro tries to hit her again, but this time, Shiro takes to her heels, jumps, and activates a beast merge with Mineko. Kuro is shocked as she watches both become a single overpowered beast, but underestimates them, thinking they're weak. Before she can blink, the girls speed to her back, and even when she tries to attack them with her tentacles, the girls counter with a lightning-infused strike that renders her useless. Despite that, Kuro pushes her body to its limits and tries to attack the girls again, but she gets punched in the belly. As she falls to the ground, Shiro notices that she's coming from a place of hatred, so she asks if she's had sisters too, but rather than answer, Kuro tears up and gives up the ghost. Elsewhere, Verdos, one of Toma's goons, stands against a pack of demons, smiling as they attack him. As he tosses them like trash, he brags about his strength and begs the demons to hit him harder. But that's when Rowa shows up and punches him in the face. As he recovers, Rowa shakes her fist, wondering why a dude built like Sam Smith after the Pandemic is that strong. Verdos boasts about having a body made from iron, and he also reveals that he was created and experimented on by humans. However, when he declares his loyalty to Toma, Rowa gets ticked off because Toma is trying to destroy the world, but she gets more ticked off when Verdos makes fun of Ruga's death. As a result, she charges and lands a nasty kick on him, but the impact tears her muscles, and she starts bleeding. Despite that, she boasts about being the daughter of the Beast King and activates her powers to show that she means business. Unfortunately, Verdos fades to dust, rematerializes as a pack of floating stones, and starts hitting Rowa's body at high speeds. Within seconds, Rowa gives out and falls to the ground, but when Verdos starts mocking her pride, she gets up and activates her beast powers. The sight shocks Verdos, and although he tries his best to stop her with speeding iron balls, Rowa takes them like it's nothing and punches him in the face. After tasting her fist, Verdos recalls an old legend about how beastkins from the royal bloodline can trade their life forces for strength just before they die, so he decides to harden his body to ensure he survives Rowa's wrath. At first, Rowa's punches deal little damage to him, but as she keeps punching him, She breaks through his armor, forcing Verdos to panic. Immediately, he expels multiple spikes that impale Roa, but even with that, Roa keeps punching him, trying to prove a point that she isn't a weakling. She manages to pierce through his chest, but her weak state prevents her from finishing him off. Surprised, Verdos uses what's left of his magic to heal her, so when she wakes up, she asks why he did it. Verdos casually replies that watching her fight changed his mind about everything. Then he falls to the ground. Realizing that Verdos has a good heart, Roa asks why he was working for Toma, so he jokingly replies that it's because he likes hot guys. Back in the fight against Hoodie, Setsu falls victim to Hoodie's trap that restricts his movements. But just as Hoodie tries to chop his head off, he breaks free and blocks. Setsu then tells Hoodie to quit playing with him and summon Toma because there's no way he can win this fight. Hearing this, Hoodie laughs and removes the limit on his powers, then attacks Setsu, hoping to finish him off. This time, Hoodie seems more confident because his armor can absorb the impact of Setsu's strike, so when Setsu notices, he infuses his sword with magic and lands multiple strikes that overload Hoodie's armor. With Hoodie's body exposed, Setsu orders him to stand down, but Hoodie refuses, insisting that his life will become useless if he gives up fighting. As he charges at Setsu again, Setsu smacks him with his sword, causing him to pass out. Right then, Toma notices that all his goons have been defeated, but he acts unconcerned because he's already close to getting what he wants. In the meantime, Livia storms into the demon castle and learns from Divas that the war is finally coming to an end. The news excites her, but before she can celebrate, Toma walks into the room and beats both her and Divas to a pulp. A little later, Setsu charges into the castle because he knows Toma is there, but he immediately gets ticked off when he finds his girls bleeding and packed together like sardines. When Toma threatens to unalive them, Setsu attacks, but Toma blocks and starts yapping about how they'll have plenty of time to talk together once he ends the world. Setsu charges at Toma again, but as Toma realizes they're nearly evenly matched, he breaks away and aims his sword at Setsu. Setsu blocks, and the impact cracks the sky itself, prompting Livia to cast a shield to protect herself and Divas. After that, Setsu taunts that he was just warming up, so Toma dares him to fight for real, summoning a barrage of magical projectiles. As expected, Setsu blocks them, but doing so leaves him open to another of Toma's attacks, which he barely manages to deflect. The impact from the Toma attack leaves Setsu bleeding when the smoke clears, causing Toma to mock Setsu for losing his touch. However, Setsu makes him eat those words by knocking Toma's sword away and serving him fist sandwiches right in the face. When Toma's had enough, he blasts Setsu back with a concentrated burst of magic, so Setsu dodges at the last second and starts mocking him for fighting like a chicken on steroids. Not wanting to let that insult slide, Toma summons his sword again and transforms it into a magic-powered nuclear cannon. One shot completely vaporizes the castle walls, and the destruction even reaches a nearby mountain. Seeing this, Setsu thanks his lucky stars that he dodged or his sacks and unmentionables would taken damage. He charges at Toma anyway, determined to stop him before he destroys the world with magical nukes. One kick sends Toma flying into the air, but with eyesight as bad as a bat, he misses every shot he fires at Setsu. Frustrated, Toma alters the cannon into a military-grade machine gun and rains magic-infused bullets down on Setsu. Explosions engulf the clouds, and Toma starts smiling, thinking he's won, not until he notices Setsu standing unharmed behind a barrier. Toma powers up the machine gun again, and Setsu levels the playing field by summoning his legendary weapon, using it to swallow every magical bullet fired at him. He absorbs all that energy and fuses it with his own, unleashing a double aerial sword strike that forces Toma onto the defensive. The shift in the battle enrages Toma, and he feels like Setsu is cheating, but he gets more furious when Setsu turns around mid-fight just to check if his friends are okay. The sight reminds Toma of how Setsu has been paying more attention to his new friends in this world, and he snaps at Setsu, demanding to know why he's always the one left behind. However, the enchanted crystal on Toma's sword feeds off his hatred and pumps him full of unbelievable power, so overwhelming that Setsu starts questioning reality. After taking a closer look, Setsu realizes this power isn't coming from Toma alone. Turns out, Toma is also burning away his own life force to keep fighting. As they clash again, Setsu struggles to get close enough to land a hit, yet Toma ends up targeting his friends instead. Thinking fast, Setsu uses his legendary sword to consume most of the blast, but one shot slips past him and slams into the castle. Luckily, Dezes and the others combine their magic just in time to save themselves, but the sight only enrages Toma further. Before he can even blink, Setsu is already in front of him, unleashing a barrage of fatal magical strikes that force Toma to block with everything he has. In the chaos, Toma doesn't notice Setsu slip behind him, and he ends up taking multiple deadly sword blows, capped off by a devastating slash that leaves him helpless. As he hits the ground, Toma assumes Setsu has betrayed him, so the enchanted crystal feeds on the last of his hatred, mutating his weapon into a missile launcher bigger than Donald Trump's 2025 budget. One blast from it forces Setsu to block with his life, but even then he gets fried and yeeted straight into the ground, seeing Setsu down. Toma starts laughing, thrilled that he actually defeated the greatest hero, not until Setsu casually gets back up, as if nothing happened. Toma panics when he suddenly finds himself trapped inside one of Setsu's magical barriers, realizing way too late that Setsu still has more tricks up his sleeve. With shaky legs, Toma tries to summon his weapon again, but Setsu commands his legendary sword to devour the cursed magic until nothing remains. As the curse is drained from him, Toma starts begging for his life, convinced he's done for, but once the cursed magic is purged, he regains control of himself and realizes Setsu only intended to destroy the enchanted crystal. When he asks why Setsu spared him, Setsu explains it's because he still remembered their promise, and because Toma will need to atone for everything he's done. The next day, Toma is placed in solitary confinement. Setsu visits him with news about his punishment, saying that all Toma has to do is use the magic he has left to send the summoned heroes back to Earth. Toma is shocked. So Dezes clarifies that the punishment is that simple because once Toma loses his power, he'll be no different from an ordinary human. Setsu also advises him to go with the summoned heroes and start over on Earth, which brings Toma to tears. Later that morning, Toma sends the students back to Earth but refuses to join them. When Setsu asks why, Toma says he wants to stay and see the world for himself, so he can figure out what he can contribute to it. That's the end of today's video. If you stayed until now, comment down below plot cans. Leave a like and subscribe to the channel if you want to see hot recaps like this. Don't forget to check out the next video. It might just be your new favorite anime recap.